Stand in the crowded streets of Paris in the scorching summer of 1789, and you can feel something the city has never felt before: a raw rage. For centuries, the kings of France ruled here like living gods behind gilded palace gates, while the poor outside slowly starved in silence. Bread prices keep rising and wages keep falling, and in the crowded markets of Paris, hunger has quietly turned into a dangerous kind of fury. Inside the glittering Palace of Versailles, the chandeliers burn bright, but beyond its gates, a whole exhausted nation is running out of patience. This is the story of the explosive years that tore an ancient monarchy apart, turning quiet citizens into fearless revolutionaries overnight. Paris in 1789 is a city of brutal contrasts. Its narrow, filthy streets packed with beggars just miles from a palace literally dripping in gold. The Third Estate, the common people of France, make up nearly 98% of the nation, yet own almost nothing and control even less. Dangerous pamphlets pass hand to hand through smoky, candlelit taverns, whispering a radical idea that ordinary people might hold real power. On the 14th of July, an angry crowd gathers outside an old fortress prison, known across all of France simply and darkly as the Bastille. They are not just storming an ancient building, they are storming the very symbol of royal cruelty that has loomed over Paris for centuries now. Muskets fire and cannons roar across the courtyard, and by that afternoon, the ancient stone walls fall to a crowd armed with raw desperation. Word of the victory spreads through France like wildfire. The king's own soldiers can be beaten, and the old world is finally starting to crack. Weeks later, thousands of furious women march from Paris all the way to Versailles, enraged over bread they cannot afford to feed their children. They drag the entire royal family back to Paris themselves, forcing the king to finally live among the very people he once chose to ignore. For the first time in French history, the monarchy is no longer untouchable, and everyone walking the streets of Paris can feel that seismic shift. New revolutionary assemblies form, boldly declaring rights that once seemed impossible: liberty, equality, and a real voice for every citizen. But freedom does not arrive gently or quietly. It arrives soaked in suspicion, as old loyalties collapse and dangerous new enemies emerge daily. Rumors spread quickly of nobles secretly plotting with foreign armies to crush the revolution and drag Paris violently back into old chains. Fear becomes its own kind of fuel, and the revolution that began with genuine hope starts sliding steadily towards something far more dangerous. In the crowded National Convention, a quiet lawyer named Maximilien Robespierre begins rising through the chaos with unsettling, cold precision. He speaks constantly of virtue and purity, but hidden beneath his careful words lies a warning that anyone can be named an enemy of the people. In January of 1793, King Louis XVI is finally led to the guillotine, and an entire glittering era of French history ends in seconds. The gathered crowd watches in stunned silence as the heavy blade falls, then erupts, because the unthinkable has just quietly become reality. Months later, Marie Antoinette follows him to that very same platform, her once dazzling world reduced to one final silent walk through Paris. Paris does not stop to mourn either of them. It moves forward faster and darker as the revolution begins consuming its own frightened children. This marks the beginning of what history will call the Reign of Terror, and no single citizen of Paris is truly safe from suspicion anymore. Neighbors report neighbors, close friends betray friends, and one careless word spoken aloud can mean a trip to the scaffold by the next morning. The guillotine becomes a grim, permanent centerpiece of daily life in Paris, its heavy blade falling again and again in the heart of the city. Executions now draw huge crowds who cheer and weep in the very same breath, unsure if they are witnessing true justice or simple public slaughter. Robespierre insists the relentless killing is necessary. that terror itself is the only path toward a pure and virtuous republic for everyone. But the very committee built to protect this revolution now slowly turns its blade toward anyone who dares question its growing authority. Even loyal revolutionaries who once stood proudly beside Robespierre now find themselves accused, condemned, and executed within a few short days. By the exhausting summer of 1794, Paris is utterly worn down, terrified not of kings anymore, but of the very revolution meant to save them all. On the 9th of Thermidor, the convention finally turns hard against Robespierre himself, arresting the very man who had ruled Paris through fear. The following day, that same merciless blade he defended for years falls upon his own neck before a stunned, silent Parisian crowd watching. With his sudden death, the terror ends almost as quickly as it began, leaving an exhausted city struggling to understand what it had survived. Paris slowly exhales for the first time in years. Its streets, once filled with quiet fear, begin to fill again with markets, laughter, and hope. A new, fragile government rises from the wreckage of the old one, unstable and uncertain, but finally free from the guillotine's daily shadow. Within just a few short years, a young, ambitious general named Napoleon Bonaparte will step from these very ashes to reshape all of Europe. But that remarkable story is for another day, because what happened first in these very old streets changed the world before he ever arrived. The French Revolution did not simply execute one king. It permanently shattered the old idea that absolute power could never be questioned. It proved beyond doubt that ordinary citizens, armed with nothing but fury and desperate hope, could bring down centuries of absolute rule. And yet, for all its lofty ideals of liberty, equality, and brotherhood, the revolution ultimately consumed thousands of its own people alive. That deep contradiction, hope and horror walking constantly side by side, is exactly what makes this revolution feel so unforgettable today. Walk through the streets of Paris now, and beneath the quiet cafes and old cobblestones, the faint echoes of 1789 still linger in every corner. The Place de la Concorde, once soaked heavily in blood beneath the guillotine, is now peacefully filled with tourists, traffic, and evening light. History rarely erases its deepest wounds completely. It simply builds new life carefully on top of them, layer by layer, slowly over time. If this cinematic journey through revolutionary Paris pulled you in, make sure to subscribe now for more immersive history videos just like this. Every single like genuinely helps this story reach more curious people who love uncovering hidden moments that quietly reshaped our modern world. So tell me honestly in the comments below, which city or moment in history should we bring vividly back to life in cinematic detail next time? Because somewhere out there, in another forgotten street or a fallen empire, another story just like this one is still quietly waiting to be told. And Paris, scarred but still unbroken, stands today as living proof that even the darkest revolutions can ultimately build something lasting.